Good evening, Broncos country. We are live. But before we get started, want to make sure we have all of our platforms included for tonight's discussion. Going to be talking playoffs, Dylan.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we are good. Welcoming everyone to another episode of the Orange and Blue View. I am one of your hosts, Ron White. On that side of me, you know him, you love him as Dylan Vaughn Arks. Dylan, how are you feeling now that the Broncos are in the playoffs and getting ready for that matchup in Western New York against the Buffalo Bills tomorrow?
I'm very excited. It's been a long time coming. 2015. I was in freaking high school the last time the Broncos were in the playoffs. So
Oh,
pretty crazy stuff. But I watched the last game. The Chargers are charging, and I got to eat some crab and French bread while I did it. So that was a pretty nice treat before hopping on here.
yeah, that sounds interesting. Sounds like it's good. Yeah, same here. We in Georgia we got some snow. Hmm. So been kind of in the house here, just again watching football. Another game yesterday, Ohio State and Penn State and um well I would think of who was it? Ohio State and Texas. Yeah, Ohio State and Texas.
Texas, that was a good one.
That was a good one. That was a good one. And then yep, as you mentioned, I just saw the Chargers charging as usual. So but yeah, looking forward to tomorrow's matchup. Before we get into it tonight, let's see who we have in the chat joining us. We got Mr. David Youngkin coming in. Thank you, David. It's always good to see you, my guy. He says, have a great show tonight, everyone. Hashtag Broncos are winning. I like it, David. I like it. Yes, yes, yes. Hopefully, I like the optimism. It's going to be a tough task tomorrow, but I do have faith in the team that they'll put out a good showing in tomorrow's matchup. Thank you for joining us, David, again. And let's see who else we have. We got C Chain coming in. Thank you. It's good to see you as always. It says, let's go Broncos. Like PS2 said, it's our time. Yes. Yes, it's our time to, get back on the map, C Chang. And I think we've kind of already done that, given how the season unfolded. The Broncos were projected to win the five games. I think Vegas had them at 5.5, and they supersede those expectations. So it's time to show them what we got. Show them what we got. Let's go out tomorrow, play aggressive, and see what happens. Again, the playoffs are a different beast, so anything can happen. It only boils down to one game.
That's
Okay.
right, man. Yeah, it's exciting time, and this team's young and hungry, as Sean Payton and many fans have pointed out. So just go play with your hair on fire, man. You weren't supposed to be here by many outlets accounts. So just go out there, have fun, get some playoff experience.
Yes, for sure. And as we just said, Heath Holmes, what a lovely charging we are being treated by Harbaugh and Herbert. It's good for the soul. Go Broncos. Yes, Heath. Good. It's good. Good for the soul. It's good to see again another one of those divisional foes just knocked out first round. And yeah, Dylan Herbert just looked awful. He looked bad. And yeah, that Houston Texans defense really started to just heat up. They were aggressive. D'Amico Ryans has that team, playing well. I know there were some concerns because their offense didn't really look good a lot during the season. I know CJ Stroud did struggle, but they did look pretty okay. At least started to move the ball well against the Chargers. But shout out to them. It was a good game.
Yeah, definitely. It's good to see the first AFC West foe fall down. If we get a win this weekend, hey, we're gonna get a shot at those Chiefs. So hey,
Mm-hmm.
man, it's a competitive division for sure, minus the Raiders, who are going through another GM and coaching search.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, definitely. Thank you again for that. And we got Mike S coming in saying, "What's up, Dylan, Ron Scott, and Broncos country? What's up with you, Mike? Good to see you, my guy. Hopefully, you are doing well." All right, let's see who else we have. And we got Mr. Roy Osborne coming in from Facebook. Says, "Why can't we do that against the Chargers?" Yeah, I don't know, Roy. I don't know. And it was again, that first half of that last game against the Chargers, we played them. I mean, we were up. We were up on them. We were dealing, and I think the Broncos just really kind of shot themselves in the foot, got away from what was working. So it was a good. But again, it's still good to see them knocked out in the wild card round. Thank you again for coming in. All right, let's see. And we got Mr. Phil McLaughlin coming in. Phil, it's always good to see you, my guy. Says, good evening, Ron and Dylan. Let's hope Moss and PS2 shut down the outside and Bo is allowed to play freely. Hashtag Buckham, hashtag MHH for life, hashtag Broncos for life. Yes, Phil. Yes, Phil. Again, the Broncos are playing with house money. I think with that in mind, they just need to go out and be aggressive. Go out and play their style of football, both on offense and defense. And as you alluded to here, the corners, shut down the outside, have PS2. I'm not sure how Vance is going to do the coverage. Maybe PS2 might be on Amari Cooper some of the time. It might be on Shakir. And then, have Moss kind of take that second receiver at times. And then I think the concern is, that ground game, which we're going to get into of the Bills, because they have a very elite running back core, at least in my eyes, and obviously the quarterback is elite as well. But yeah, if Sean Payton has that aggressive game plan of, running the ball, using Bo in the design runs, and if Vance Joseph can be aggressive on defense, this team has a shot. This team has a shot.
Yeah, thank you for coming in as always, Phil. Yeah, you're gonna hope that Moss has a bounce back game. Obviously, coming off an injury, playing against T. Higgins, you're not gonna look so great. But then, kind of circled back against the Chiefs, played better. Obviously, backups. I know, I get it, but he did what he was supposed to do. He took care of business. And coming into this week, the Bills receivers, they do have a couple good ones. Khalil Shakir, I do like a lot. Amari Cooper, like you mentioned, Keon Coleman's going to be one to look out for. Big rookie, big body guy. I think out of the three, though, honestly, in terms of our corners, McMillan is kind of scaring me a little bit. He's been giving up a lot of big plays there in the slot, and I could see Shakir getting moved around there, and that's going to be the matchup to look out for in the secondary.
Yeah, McMillan has definitely been a concern, especially as the season near the season's end. I know they've been throwing at him, going right after him. He's been getting exploited for sure, but hopefully he can, bounce back, be up to the task at hand, especially when, guarding Shakir. But that does definitely have cause for pause for sure. But again, Phil, thank you so much, my man, for coming in. We appreciate it. All right, and then let's see who else we have in the chat. Rodney coming in. Rodney Garcia, thank you. He says, I heard we activated Bidet. Yes. So Tyler Bidet has been activated from IR, which I saw that earlier, Dylan, and I was like, yes. Because I believe I was talking to you where I think that might be the Broncos' secret weapon. Mm-hmm. And so, when I saw that was good to hear. So definitely would give this Broncos offense, this running group a boost. So it's good to hear that news.
100%. And I'm sure he could have been activated last week, but I think they just want to give him a little extra time. So make it for where it counted, because he looked spectacular when he was in before his injury, obviously. And yeah, this run game needs a boost. And it seemed when he was healthy, Sean Payton was a little more amenable to run the ball. So hopefully we see that trend continue with Bidet back in the lineup.
Yes, most definitely. And it's also, I guess we shouldn't be surprised now that, the Broncos are the 7th seed. So for most of these matchups, they will be the Underdog heading in. And speaking of Underdog, Underdog is a place to play if you're a sports fan looking to win money while watching sports. Join over 5 million fans who are already playing on Underdog. With their pick'em game, you could win money by making entries with your favorite players. Compete against other players just by selecting higher or lower on two or more players' statistics, and you could win up to 1,000 times your money. So turn every touchdown into a win with Underdog.
With their champs game, you could win up to 1,000 times your money just by choosing higher or lower in player stats like passing yards, interceptions, touchdowns, and much more. Like, for example, will Bo Nix have higher than 221.5 passing yards next week? Will Nix have higher or lower than 1.5 passing touchdowns? Every dog deserves a second chance, and with Underdog Rescues, you can get your money back and receive a promo if an early injury causes your entry to lose.
So download the Underdog app today and use code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Again, download the Underdog app today and use our code MHuddle to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash instantly. Every player, every touchdown, just select higher or lower on Underdog.
Must be 18 plus, 19 plus Alabama and Nebraska, 19 plus in Colorado for some games, 21 plus Massachusetts and Arizona, and present in a state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms apply. Void in Colorado. Concerned with your play? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit ncpgambling.org. Arizona, 1-800-NEXT-STEP or text NEXT-STEP to 53342. New York, call 24/7 Hope line at 1-877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY.
All righty. All right, guys. So we'll get to a few more questions, comments here shortly. But Dylan, for the playoff game tomorrow, we know that the Broncos are going to be facing a potential MVP candidate in Josh Allen. We know how tough he is, how good he is. But what's also been helping him has been the running game. And so I guess how do you see the Broncos slowing down Josh Allen and this running attack of the Buffalo Bills?
Well, it starts with the defensive line that's been stellar all season, obviously, especially in that interior. You got Allen, John Franklin Myers, DJ Jones, Malcolm Roach, and those guys are going to be very key for stopping the run up the middle there. And then Nick Bonito, while he struggled early on in his career as a run defender, and by no means is he exceptional at this point, but he's much better. And Jonathan Cooper has always been pretty good in that area as well. It's going to start with his defensive line, man. They have to get pressure. They have to fill those gaps. And then for the linebackers to play just disciplined football. Obviously, we don't have the best options there right now. We haven't all season after Singleton's injury, who was great in run defense especially. So Sternad is going to have to step up, and so is Cody Barton. And those guys have to fill the gaps for this defensive line if they happen to whiff.
Yeah. Yes. Most definitely. And I'll add on to that. Let's before I do that, let's see who else we have in the chat. We got Mike S coming in. I think the Broncos will beat the Bills tomorrow. Okay. So we got quite a few folks here in the chat that are riding with the team. I like it. I like it. We'll see how it happens tomorrow, but I do like it. And then you also mentioned here with Rodney, all three running backs for Buffalo are good as pass catchers, especially Ray Davis and Ty Johnson. Yes, Rodney, that's a good point. Rodney, the way I see it, Ty Johnson, I think, is really their third one on the chart. He can be a starter in Denver. They're that good. I mean, obviously it's led by James Cook, who's been phenomenal, but yeah, Ray Davis and Ty Johnson have been quite the story this season. And I think, Dylan, that's the point kind of you made, where I think this game is going to come down to the defensive line, which I'll get to that, but the inside linebackers, and that's what scares me a bit. we've seen Justin Strnad, just look lost in coverage, missing tackles. They just can't do that this game. You can't. You got to be up, when you're in front, upside near the line of scrimmage, go up to the guy and just get a tackle. You can't let him go through those next steps. And that goes for Cody Barton as well. And then you mentioned the defensive line. The running game, I feel as though Josh Allen can be an extension of that running game at times. So that's where that defensive line comes into play. Um, you have to try to contain Allen within the pocket. When he gets outside, that's where he's lethal. Finding those open guys because you only hold up in coverage but so long. And you just got to try to get him to the ground. Yeah, you have to. I know he's a huge guy. And I know teams, it's been hard because I believe they allow the fewest sacks. I believe the Bills do.
14.
Yeah, and the Broncos have the most, 63. So yeah, if got to contain Allen in the pocket, can't let him get outside. So you got to set those edges for sure, and just get that consistent pressure, and then with the hope that, you can get to him, get those sacks for sure.
Definitely. And another thing that I'm pretty worried about is James Cook catching the football. He's very dynamic with the football in his hands, and that matchup against our linebackers is just absolutely nightmarish. I'm not looking forward to that, and that's something they're going to key in on because their offensive coordinator, Joe Brady, he's a pretty smart guy, and he's schemed up some pretty good stuff for the weapons there in Buffalo. So fingers crossed that the linebackers can stay disciplined tomorrow.
Yep, most definitely. All righty. Let's see who else we have here in the chat. Got Mike S. Thank you. He says, "What matchups are we looking forward to tomorrow?" Dylan, what's your answer here for Mike?
Well, I think a big one is going to be Cortland Sutton on Bill's corner. Christian Benford, that's the one. Mm-hmm. He's been a pretty underrated corner for them this year. Some consider him a Pro Bowl snub. But I mentioned Sutton specifically because that seems to be Bo Nix's security blanket, right? We don't have an actual tight end that has stepped up in that role. And Sutton's balled out as over 1,000 yards and several just amazing touchdowns. But that's going to be the matchup to look for just because the Bills are going to want to make Bo uncomfortable. He's already a rookie quarterback. He's going to be in hostile territory, and they're going to want to shut down his number one weapon. And hopefully the emergence of Mims scares them enough to where maybe they'll draw a little more coverage to that side. But specifically, Benford on Sutton is the matchup I'm looking for.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm looking at tight end and the tight ends on the Bills, and what do our linebackers / safeties have? What can they do, right? Because this two-headed monster at tight end with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox is quite a challenge. So I would like to see how, what is VJ's plan here, right? Brandon Jones with some PJ Locke. How does he shift and kind of mixes up the coverages? So I would say that's definitely one of the matchups, my guess, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. It's going to be interesting.
Yes, those linebackers, a lot's going to hinge on them this game, unfortunately for us.
Yes, definitely. All righty, let's see. Then we got Rodney Garcia. I hope our run defense is up to par tomorrow for Cook. Yes, they better be. Rodney, they better be. And we just alluded to not just for Cook, but with all three of those, those those running backs. I think they just have to be, sound in their gaps. When they load the box, make sure they're all about, spilling, containing, movement of the football. So they just have to make sure that they're very sound when it comes to their assignments, for sure.
Yeah, and then even just Josh Allen in the run game too, as we mentioned a little bit already. But the Broncos do like to play a lot of man coverage, and we've been pretty locked down for the most part. So that's when Allen's going to look to take off when he has the gap, but no one's covering him. And that's, again, defensive line linebacker is going to have to play discipline to stop that extension of the run game with Josh Allen. Because, like you mentioned, Ron, he's a large man. It's gonna take a lot to take him down.
Yes. Yep. For sure. For sure. And then let's see, got some good Rodney comments and questions here. Thank you, Rodney. He says, I feel Vele will be much more involved in this game. The Bills will try to shut down Mims and Sutton. Yeah, that could very well be. Rodney, I do think I still think Sutton is gonna be a factor, and Sutton will get his. Um, but yeah, I think this will be huge opportunity for Vele, for maybe a little Jordan Humphrey, although how I feel about little Jordan Humphrey, but he can this be opportunity for him as well. But again, Rodney, this is where this running game really needs to be a factor. Sean Payton doesn't need to be spreading the ball all over the place. Again, I like Nick. I like Nick's. I'm encouraged. He does well, but I just think you definitely need to support him with the running game. And again, it was encouraging with Bidet activated, that can give the boost, so it can help take some of this pressure off. But yeah, I would say down the field shots, you probably will see more action from Bailey, like that throw last week, Dylan. I forgot when it was, but that throw down the middle, that was nice to Bailey. And so you may start to see more throws like that to get him more involved in the offense for sure. Thank you, Rodney.
Yeah, thanks, Rodney. Vele has been an awesome weapon for this team. Obviously, not a huge volume of catches, towards the second half of the season, but when the balls come his way, and it's been a good pass. I think he maybe dropped one,
yeah, maybe
that I can remember.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got sure hands, man, and that's a reliable weapon to have, and for a young offense, and that is lacking that from like you mentioned, tight end position, not getting so much out of the running game, whether it be you're not calling that game or you just don't have the dogs back there to run. So Vele is going to come up huge for the Broncos, I think.
Yes, for sure. All right. Thank you, Rodney. And then we have Paul Heater. Depends which VJ shows up. Yeah, it does. I hope you don't get the VJ of the Ravens game, because that's doomed for Denver. I mean that's so again, hope you get more. They play more man. That's their style. I know the Bills like to do. They like to set up a lot of those bunch formations. Have that one receiver on the opposite side, and so I think that kind of helps into what Denver likes to do to a degree, right? They have one solo receiver on one side, kind of Patrick Surtain handles that side, and then you have in the other side of the formation, kind of have other players there to kind of cover. So, but yeah, it's going to be interesting. This is strength on strength in a lot of different ways. And I think this is why, outside of the Texans matchup, I wanted to see Dylan. This was second on my list. Like, it was, I think the Texans would have been a good opponent first round, and then after this, the Bills. So I'm glad that the Broncos got this, because again, I didn't think Baltimore would have been a good matchup first round. I don't think so.
Hell no, they wouldn't have. And it's crazy it seems crazy to say that the Bills are a more favorable matchup, because obviously you see Josh Allen, the MVP talks. You got Von Miller on the other side, going to be rushing towards Bo Nix. But in terms of offense, I think our offense stacks up pretty well. I believe the Bills are the bottom three in the league in terms of covering quarterbacks when they roll out on passes when the quarterback rolls out. So that's something that Bo Nix likes to do. That's a matchup that Denver should take care of, hopefully. But and then even defensively, obviously you see Josh Allen has the least amount of sacks. Okay, well, does that matter when you go up against a Broncos team who's ravenous at getting after the quarterback, 63 sacks, league leading, even more than the Super Bowl 50 team? Like, that's absolutely insane. So I think Nick Bonito, Jonathan Cooper, Allen, for everyone on the defensive line, they're going to be able to get theirs. It's just about getting home and playing discipline. So while I see a lot of pundits saying it's going to be a blowout, I just don't understand that. I don't know if you're paying, even if, if they have them, losing, like I've seen, no, everyone's been a blowout. It's not even close. And that's just, I feel pretty uninformed unless the Broncos have some just terrible momentum shifting luck, right out the gate.
Yeah. And switching to the Bills defense. I mean, really the only category that they're strong in is takeaways. They do take the ball away quite often, but other than that, I'm looking here at some of the numbers. Total defense, they're 17th. Pass defense, they're 24th. Rush defense, they're 12th. Okay, a little better. Scoring defense, they're 11th. So again, these aren't really, eye-popping numbers on defense when it comes to the Bills. So again, I think on offense, again, if Peyton sticks to the commitment of the run, and then has those nice designs for Bo, I think that can help out this offense. And then, yeah, just on what the Bills like to do well on offense, I like the matchup with the Denver defense. Right, it's most sacks, and I think to what you just mentioned, Cooper and Benito getting more involved. With that edge pressure, they can get Allen down. PS2 covering, half the field, and you can get McMillan and Moss kind of covering more inside. So yeah, I don't see a blowout either. This game is going to be closer than much people expect. Closer than much people expect.
Definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And we got Rodney Garcia coming in with a super chat. Thank you, Rodney, for it. We appreciate it. He says, thanks, Dylan and Ron, for the awesome Saturday show, and hope our Broncos pull off a mile-high miracle in Buffalo. Do you believe in miracles? Yeah, Rodney. Again, thank you, my guy, for coming in. It's always good to see you. Thank you for supporting. You have very insightful comments and questions. We appreciate you every week. And yeah, I believe, Dylan, I want to ask you this as well because some people have asked me this question of at what point during the season did you know that Bo Nix was a franchise quarterback for the Denver Broncos?
Man, because obviously at the start of the season, things were looking pretty bleak.
Yeah.
In terms of Bo Nix, he was a lot of turnovers. He didn't get a freaking touchdown until week 4, but week 3 started to see some things. Right, he had a pretty good game against the Buccaneers there, but just the sound football that he played against the Raiders. Honestly, like, you got Max Crosby across from him, jaw jacking, telling, "Oh, they can't hear you, Bo. They can't hear you." Trying to get in his head. Okay, yeah, now I'm going to drop 200 plus yards and three total touchdowns on you, and then do that again in the next meeting, But I would say I started to in that Raiders game, and then you get Chargers kind of weak. Saints, he didn't do too much in prime time, but I would say where it really clicked for me was that the Falcons game. Obviously, that was a big blowout for the Broncos, and something I wouldn't have guessed at the beginning of the season, just because I thought that Falcons defense would have been much better than it is currently. It's absolutely horrendous, but they took care of business, 38-6. That's absolutely amazing, and Bo just took command. I mean, you saw him making all kinds of throws, whether it be short, long throws. I know people get pretty upset about that, saying, he can't throw the deep ball. It's like, no, he can hit those when he wants to. It's just not to Troy Franklin though. Well, we're gonna get one, man. You know what? Maybe it's gonna happen tomorrow.
It might happen in the play. Yep, exactly. It may happen tomorrow, possibly.
Right when it needs to. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say probably that Atlanta game. It's like, okay, I'm seeing the vision here. I'm seeing the tools, whether it be passing the ball or even on the ground using his legs, which they should be doing in this game. Maybe they haven't in a while. Maybe they were saving it for the playoffs. So that's kind of my hope.
Yeah, that's a good one. I'm gonna go with a particular moment that that the media captured, and I'm gonna say that blow up on the sideline with him and Sean Payton was the moment I knew.
Okay.
That was
I
a
like
moment.
that.
Because Russ didn't do it. Russ didn't do it. But Russ was, letting Sean Payton just yell and have his way. But when Bo Nix had, the fortitude, I'll put it that way, to fire back at Sean Payton, I knew this was our guy. That this guy was ready to just take on the rings. And again, guys, I'm not even talking about, play on the field. Because I think the play on the field, we saw that coming. But just the leadership and how he was just ready to take command and say, hey, and I think that one kind of blew up from, I think a call at the line of scrimmage that he switched. And I think that's kind of
I
the way
think
all
it
that
was
came into play. Yeah.
it was that missed deep shot to
Deep
Troy
shot to
Franklin.
Franklin.
He's like, you have and Sean Payton's like, you have the check down. Just take the check down for the first
Exactly.
down.
Yeah. He wanted to check down. And then he went deep to Franklin. And so I just think that moment alone is when I knew that, that this guy can really, fire back at Peyton. And I know Peyton kind of feeds into that as well. And I think from that moment on, you saw how, that relationship of theirs started to improve and get better, quarterback and play caller. So that moment. But yeah, I can point to a number of throws, Dylan, a number of plays. You mentioned the Atlanta game. That throw on Monday night when the Cleveland Browns were in town to Marvin Mims, that 93-yard touchdown. So there are a number of throws that kind of solidified it for me, but I knew that's when I know I was like, yep, this this is the guy.
Definitely. I mean, just that competitive fire, man. We haven't seen that in Russell. Russell Wilson, like you mentioned, Sean starts yelling at him or getting after him, and he's just, oh shucks, guys. I guess I'll just go to the sideline and we'll get him next time.
Yep.
That's garbage, dude. Come on, show some fire. So and now you see how the Steelers are. Steelers fans are like, hey, maybe Broncos fans were right. Just like I was talking all loads of I almost swore. I'm trying to stop myself here. but all types of garbage about Seahawks fans are like, oh, Russell wasn't gonna be bad. I'm like, yeah, whatever. He's great. He's gonna come in here and be awesome. In those first couple of games, I was like, oh no, they might have been onto something. And then Steelers fans wouldn't listen to us. But back to Bo, he's got that competitive fire. He's gonna get after Peyton. He's gonna push his guys to be better. I mean, that amazing miraculous touchdown catch at the end of the Bengals game. He makes that amazing play, and then he's like, let's go for two. Let's do it. And obviously that didn't pan out, but you saw he wanted to do it. He wants to compete, and it's just amazing. It kind of reminds me in a way of Lamar Jackson his first couple seasons, just how aggressive he was. He comes up to Harbaugh on the sideline. He's like, can we go? Like, let's go. Let's do it. And it's like, yeah. So I hope to see more of that trust going forward between Peyton and Bo. But yeah, just the leadership is something that's been lacking from all these journeyman quarterbacks and all these even the ones we drafted from Locke and Paxton and stuff. They didn't have that. They didn't have that fire. It's like they were there for a paycheck. But he's here. He's a gamer. He's here to play.
Yeah. Like you said, that competitive nature, that that willingness to just go for two, go for it on that fourth down. Rally the troops, guys. Let's go. Let's get these conversions. Let's move the ball. You see that so much, and that's what you want to see. From your franchise quarterback. So it's just very encouraging to see how kind of the season's played out so far, and just imagine, when he gets more weapons, how the off season goes. It's this offense is going to be something. This offense is going to be something. But again, Rodney, thank you for coming in with that. We always appreciate you, my guy. All righty. Let's see who else. And then US Dave coming in. Thank you. He says, I like the idea that we have a player that continues to learn week to week. Yeah. Yes. And I think that's all, as Bronco fans, US Dave, that's all we've been wanting. That progression from week to week. Because again, this season was just all about Bo Nix. Is Bo Nix the guy? Can you see steps forward? Can you see improvement? And he outkicked his coverage. I mean, we saw it from week to week, and playing himself into that offensive rookie of the year conversation, and now a playoff berth. So it's been very good to see. And again, as I just mentioned, hopefully he continues to improve, and I have faith. The coaching staff is in place to where, as though as they if they move on in the playoffs and into next season, you'll see kind of how that plays out.
Yeah, and you just see that the confidence is there from Sean Payton at times. Like, he's calling plays as if this guy is still Drew Brees, and I just mean like the play calls in general. Like, you see Bo looking back, like, hey, can you repeat that again? Because it's just this long play call, man. It's frustrating sometimes, but you're seeing like, hey, like, Sean's like, I'm not gonna baby you. Like, I'm gonna treat you like you're Drew Brees. You're like, you've been with me for years. I'm gonna trust you to get these long ass play calls out and command the offense. So it is good to see him, that confidence between coach and quarterback, and then obviously, like US Dave mentions here, just learning week to week. So many times we saw, and I'll bring up Drew Lock again, just in terms of have a really good game and then have three stinkers. And like, obviously there were some stretches with Bo as well, but it wasn't like fully on him, right? He wasn't making these dumb mistakes necessarily. So it's really good to see that progression, and then getting, obviously, against backups again, it's the Chiefs, whatever. But he did what he had to do. I mean, he completed the passes he needed to, and he made the plays he needed to, and absolutely crushed him. Like, you did your job. Can't complain at all.
Yes, for sure. All righty. Thank you, US Dave, for coming in. We appreciate that. And then we have Tom Mars coming in. Thank you. New name for me, but thanks for showing up. It says, have to be great on third down, both on offense and defense. Have to be ahead of the sticks and get stops on third and that's yes. Dom, you're absolutely correct. That's been on both sides of the ball, Dom. That's been an issue with the Broncos. I would at times I would say on third down. It does help. I know Bo Nix, sometimes uses his legs and he will convert. So I would say we've been a little bit better on third down on offense, but yeah, it's Dylan on defense. They just can't get off the field on third down. I mean, you go back to that Cincinnati game and it was just third down conversion. And you're like, you got to do something to get off the field. So I'm right there with you, Dom. I'm not too concerned on offense on third down. Again, I think that's one of the things where Sean Payton, has to use that running game to support, to kind of make it third and manageable. If it gets a 3rd and 5 or less, that can play in their favor. But yeah, on defense, they have to, again, be able to force those 3rd and longs for the Bills. And I think that's where, some of the sacks can come into play, and also be able to stop Josh Allen from making those elite throws down the field. But good point.
Yeah, great point here, Tom. And Yeah, in terms of the offense on third downs, you got to make it manageable, like Ron was saying. I mean, this is a game where you're going to be able to run the ball. The Bills aren't great in that area. You just got to stick to it and make manageable third downs. Make easy completions for Bo on third down. You want to be 3rd and 10, or 3rd and 8, or 3rd and 9. You want to be within those 5 yards. And as for the defense, I could see a similar thing to Gesicki last week. Like you mentioned, that tandem that the Bills have at tight end, things could get rough on third down there, and even the receiving backs, especially James Cook. Those are going to be rough matchups, and that's where they're going to be looking on third down, especially because we know PS2 is going to lock up whoever he's on down to down. Doesn't matter who it is. Riley's been obviously coming back from an injury, so he's been a little slower, but he kind of caught up last week. It's going to be those tight ends, and that's kind of a scary thought there, especially with the linebacker play.
Yep. Yep. Again, Dom, thank you for coming in. We appreciate it. And then we got Mooney Moore coming in. Thank you. It's good to see. He says, I fear the Bills will do us exactly like the Texans did the Chargers. I don't know if I really feel that way, Mooney. I don't know. I mean, I think it's I guess I have more faith in Bo Nix and Sean Payton than I do Justin Herbert and Jim Harbaugh. Um, and also, I mean, I think with Sean Payton, you do have, a brilliant mind when it comes to game planning, and our defense has been great as well. So again, I know a lot of people have the Broncos to lose, but I don't think it's going to be a shellacking by any means. Again, this is one of those things, as we said at the top of the show, Dylan. It's strength on strength in many areas. And I think with that, most oftentimes than not, the defense actually comes out on top. I think that's what history shows you, like, pressure and sacks and such. And so, yeah, I guess I'm not too fearful tomorrow. But yeah, could the Broncos lose? Yes, for sure. But it won't be. I don't think you'll see anything like a Bo Nix with 3 or 4 interceptions. It's not going to be that type of game. It's not going to be that type of game.
No, and like you mentioned, I don't think it's going to be a blowout. It just I don't think it's set up that way. I think a lot of people are sleeping on the Broncos and think they're this lowly team that backed in the playoffs because they needed to beat the Chiefs backups to get in. And it's like I just don't get that. This is going to be a dangerous team, and they're hungry. Like, we weren't supposed to be here, right? How many times did we mention that?
Yeah.
So they're going to play with their heads on fire. They're going to play not reckless necessarily, but they're going to be like, hey, screw it. Like, let's go for it, or let's run this play, a trick play, whatever they're going to do. So it should be exciting an exciting matchup, I think, more than some people think. And no, I don't fear the Bills, man. We're playing with house money.
Yes. And like Sean Payton said, after the win against Kansas City, this is a young and dangerous team. And young and dangerous can be scary. But I believe I think Matt Ryan on like the CBS show also added to the fact that young, dangerous, and great coaching.
Yes.
And
Absolutely.
that's key. That last part. So yeah, again, young squad here. Mooney, very opportunistic. If Sean Payton doesn't, if their great coach doesn't outthink himself,
Yeah.
I do think the Broncos definitely have a great chance tomorrow. But again, thank you for coming in. Thank you for coming in with that. And then we got Mike S coming in. Would love to see Allen throw multiple interceptions. Yeah, I think we all would. Kind of revert back to that old Josh Allen, Mike. And again, that's where that defensive line comes into play. Just if they can create and generate that consistent pressure, that can happen. We can see Allen kind of revert back to, that style of play where he's throwing, 4 picks in a game. right? And that definitely would help the Broncos out. But we'll see what happens tomorrow.
Yeah, they're gonna have to get pressure on Allen to make that happen. I don't think he's gonna make those kind of plays in a clean pocket. You got to disrupt him, get him on the move, get him off his game. Obviously, he's got a strong arm. He can make a lot of throws off platform right before he's about to run out of bounds. We've seen some insane plays from Josh Allen, but you got to force those turnovers, whether it's getting him to fumble. Maybe if you can't get him down, go for that ball. I mean, he's a big dude. Like you mentioned, you might just have to go pry that ball out.
Yep. Greater turnover. Yep. Knock that ball out for sure. For sure. All right. Let's see. We got Mr. Phil McLaughlin coming back in. Thank you, Phil. Says, who's going to be our RB1 this week? I would assume it's McLaughlin, I would think.
I
So
think
I would
so.
think it'd be McLaughlin as your RB1. We'll see how he does the RB rotation. Who knows with Bidet back in the fold with, I want to see less Javonte. I know that much, Dylan.
Yes.
I want to see minimal Javonte. But I would say McLaughlin is probably going to get most of a bulk of the carries here, with some estimate, and depending on how they feel about Bidet, they may try to ease Bidet back in. I'm not sure, but that's kind of how I see it going down. So
Definitely. I mean, McLaughlin's been a great back these past couple of weeks, especially kind of the workhorse. You saw Javonte get used in that Chiefs game. I don't necessarily think that was an indication of anything. Maybe just trying to keep the other backs a little more fresh, and let Javonte be that battering ram and take some more hits going to the postseason. Now, I would like to see more Bidet. Obviously, like Ron mentioned, going to have to see where he's at, how many touches he's going to get. There's only so many mouths to feed, right?
Yeah.
But I'd like to see a lot more Estime as well. He's been pretty good, especially again, backups don't care. They took care of business. He was breaking tackles. He was reaching for those first downs, and I think we could see something similar tomorrow. Just that angry running style. That's what we need to emphasize, especially with Estime.
Yes, agreed. And again, thank you, Phil. And I know you have a question. Yeah, will Bidet be used? I'm pretty sure he will. I just don't know to what extent. Again, if it's one of those things where, they have him come in for a few carries in there to ease him in, so he can kind of get his legs back under him from a game speed perspective. That would kind of be my guess. But I do expect a few carries, but again, more than likely they're going to rely on Jaleel McLaughlin and Audrey Estime. All righty, let's see. See, Rodney coming back, and how many snaps do you think Vaughn will have? What's your answer on this one, Dylan?
Well, going up against this old team, I imagine he'd probably want to play the majority of the snaps. So they have a pretty decent rotation there. You got Epinesa, who's been good, Greg Rousseau. But obviously Von Miller's kind of caught fire. He tends to do that towards the end of the season and into the playoffs. So hopefully that cools off a little bit. We got some good offensive tackles in Garrett Bowles and Michael Gainchi. You're going to have to mitigate that pass rush either by running the ball or getting that ball out quick. And we know Bo Nix is capable of that. And we know Sean Payton is capable of calling a game where they run a little more. They just need to stick to it and really hammer that football. But I could see Vaughn playing a probably majority of snaps. I think he really wants to play against his old team.
I agree. I think he's going to be out there for quite a few snaps, because he does have his dander up to play against his old squad. His some of his friends on that. Garrett Bowles, one of his boys on that offensive line. So it's going to be interesting. But yeah, I do expect him to be in there quite often there, Rodney. Again, thank you for coming in. All right, so let's get to we're at 50 minutes, so we're gonna get to a few kind of the injuries and then we will get into our score prediction. So for the Broncos, Frank Crum is out tomorrow with illness, and then questionable. They activated him obviously, but it's questionable. Is Bidet, and then for the Bills, Brendan Codrington, the kick returner, is out. So it looks like both teams are mostly healthy going into the matchup tomorrow. All righty, Dylan. Well, before we get into score predictions, we got one coming in from Phil. Want to grab you? Thank you, Phil. He says, "Who do you think got snubbed for the Pro Bowl?" Well, Mr. Zach Allen himself
Yeah,
would be mine, Phil. Like that was just like I saw that and I'm like I had to read it again to make sure that I missed him on the list. I was like, you got to be kidding me.
yeah.
And the numbers, like Dylan, he had better numbers even than the ones who were on the first team. Like I'm like, what is this? So I
He's
would
better than
say,
Chris Jones statistically.
yeah, yeah, but wait, yeah, better than Chris Jones. Um, it's scaring me who else I'll pull up. You probably have the list up, but yeah, Chris Jones. I remember that one. I'm like, yeah, this, yeah. Um, so I would say my biggest is Zach Allen. I mean, you can let me argue like who else was Cortland Sutton,
Quinn Miners was in the.
and Quentin Miner.
I don't believe. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't think so. There were quite a few. You're like, but yeah, I would say the biggest snub for me is Zach Allen, especially given the season he's had.
yeah. I would probably go with Quinn Miners just because he's been absolutely amazing for the
Right.
Broncos and the reason why they've only given up. What was it, 24 sacks this season?
Mhm.
And you got guys in there like Trey. I feel like he probably should have made over Trey Smith. I know Joe Thuney's been pretty good for the Chiefs, but Trey Smith, I don't see how he played better than Quinn Miners. And then just looking back, obviously we're talking about Zach Allen. Um, just looking here, Cam Hayward, I understand that one. Chris Jones, Zach Allen had way better
Madubuike.
stats than him, and Matabuke as well. So again, I don't put a lot of stock into the Pro Bowl. It's a popularity contest. That's what it's been for a long time now, and which is a shame, especially considering like players' contracts kind of hinge on that a little bit. uh,
Mhm.
but you still got the All Pros, so we had a lot of the same faces there. So yeah, in terms of Pro Bowl, yeah, those are probably the two biggest snubs there, in Quinn Miners and Zach Allen.
Yep. Yep. For sure. For sure. Great question, Phil. Thank you. Thank you. All right, Dylan. So now score predictions. How do you have the playoff matchup shaken out tomorrow?
Well, I did submit this prediction, I believe, Wednesday ish, and I've started to kind of change my mind, but I think I'm gonna stick with it. You guys don't shoot me. Don't get too mad at me now. I think Josh Allen and the Bills just have a little more playoff experience. Obviously, he's been there, done that type stuff. Obviously, he hasn't made it past to the Super Bowl yet, but there's a lot of experience on the team. Sean McDermott uh, has his team coached up pretty well. Not as good as Peyton. I think Peyton uh, is the better coach in this matchup, but ultimately, I see the Broncos losing in a close one, 28-20.
Hmm. Okay. Okay. Um. Yeah. So for me, it is going to be a tall task. This Bills team is humming, and again, although they don't have um like star pieces, their quarterback is a star in himself. But I do think again, if the Broncos can really contain Josh Allen and get those sacks. That's gonna be the key here. So with that, I have an upset. I do have the Broncos pulling this one out and a close one. Um, so my final is 26 Broncos, 24 Buffalo. So
Awesome, man. I as like these past couple of days, I've been like, man, I've been getting more excited, and uh, it's just some of those matchups, like we were talking about earlier, with the running backs, especially like throwing the running backs and the tight ends. That really does have me worried, especially with how
yeah.
the defenses played the last couple of games. But that doesn't mean I think they can't win. Obviously, I will be rooting for them to win, and I could see them winning. This isn't like a oh, they're definitely going to lose. Like, I'm still shaky on my predictions, so I'll definitely be rooting and wearing all my orange and blue tomorrow.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. And again, yeah, either way, I think this one, I guess I'm trusting more of the strength of the Broncos in this one.
I got
Again,
you.
I have this feeling on defense. This defense is gonna come to play, gonna come out firing. So yeah, that's kind of where my prediction, the basis of my prediction is on the defense.
Definitely.
Yep. All righty, guys. It was great to talk to you all tonight, as it always is. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. We greatly appreciate it. If you have not done so already, make sure you subscribe to the channel, like and share on all of the platforms. We'd greatly appreciate it. And then, if you have not done so already, make sure you follow us on X, formerly known as Twitter. I am at Ron White NFL, and my partner in crime is at Dylan Von Arcs MHH. And also make sure you follow the main channel for Mile High Huddle as well on X. And before we get out of here, I'll turn it over to Dylan to thank a few people who have supported us tonight.
Yeah, thank you all for jumping in the chat tonight. Obviously, it's a Saturday, a lot of people's days off, and an NFL playoff Saturday at that. And we capped out at around 170 viewers. That's absolutely amazing. Like, to just give us your time like that, especially like I mentioned on a weekend. So we very much appreciate that. And I want to give a little extra love to those who showed us an extra love tonight in our Super Chat Superstars. Phil McLaughlin came in not once, not twice, but 3 different times. Thank you so much, Phil. Always good to see your name popping up in our chat, whether it's you're giving us stars or you're just asking a question in general. And our other Super Chat Superstar for the night, Rodney Garcia. Thank you guys so much for hopping in with us. We greatly appreciate it.
Yes, guys. Thank you again so much. And then hopefully you guys enjoy the rest of Wildcard Weekend. I know what the Steelers and the Ravens are on right now. So I know that'll be a good game, but we will see you all next week. And until then, go Broncos.
Go Broncos.